Hey everybody, welcome back to Midwest Marksman. This is my B channel. My name is Andrew. What you're looking at here is a Discovery Optics 5-30 Gen 2. There is a 5-30 Gen 3 dropping later this year with a internal electronic bubble level. That's going to be interesting. I'm using some Discovery rings. I'm on a Pinty PCP chambered in 2.2, and I do have one of Terry from Buckrail's devices on the end. They work really, really well. 3D printed device, but incredibly well. I'll probably try out one of these anechoic micro cans later to see what the results and performance are like, if it's any different or not. I assume it should be different, but I don't know what way. It may be better or worse, not sure. Anyways, what I would like to do today is, it's really windy. You can't see it here because I'm tucked away from the wind, but out where the projectile is going to fly, it's about 15 mile an hour winds, almost sustained in the low spot, and then the gusts, I don't know, they're even higher. I've tried to track and the gusts are all over the place, so it's just windy. What I want to do is show you that even with an HD image, I know typically on my channel, especially on my main channel where I have more review type content, you're gonna hear me say that I'm always pushing people towards ED glass and a higher end optic if they can afford it. But you know, a lot of people, maybe even most people, especially in my state, they don't need an optic to push past 100 or 200 yards. More often than not, they're shooting closer. And HD glass, if I'm being honest, especially with a 56mm objective, can do a lot for you. Now in this PCP setup, I like it because huge internal elevation, nice side parallax, goes down to 25 yards, side illumination. It's just a good optimized optic for PCP shooting. And I could see centerfire application too. If you're a target bench shooter and you just shoot 100, 200 yards, I think this has a really nice reticle. It's one of my preferred reticles from Discovery actually. And I don't think during peak times, good lighting, that you're gonna have significant difference in your performance between an ED and HD image. It's still gonna look pretty decent, and that's what I'm seeing right now. So let's go ahead and try to shoot a KYL. I'm gonna do something interesting. I'll shoot it on the lowest power, which would be 5, and then I'll run back and try to shoot the KYL on the highest power. Again, just adjusting my parallax a little bit. Just wanna see what happens with the difference, so I'm taking you guys along for the ride. I will flip my camera around so you can see that target again, shooting at 35 yards today. All right, here we go on 5 power. Let's just see what happens. I do anticipate that I'll probably miss a couple of these, but the reticle is thick enough. I'll tell you, I can see that 1/4 incher. Okay, let's start off on the left side and just run it through 5 power, 35 yards, quite windy. Here we go. Yeah, these targets are going to be relatively easy. Okay, at this point, this is where I have to take a little bit more time because on 5 power, although I can see the reticle, the target itself is quite small. Okay, that's a hit, but it was a skim, kind of a skim packed. How about that 1/4 incher, 35 yards, 5 power. Just glanced it, just a glance. All right, not too bad. I'll go ahead and load up another mag here. I'm impressed that with that reticle, I was able to contrast still decently well. The dark target had some hits on it. Of course, I have a black reticle. I'm not running any amount of illumination. In this much light, I wouldn't see the illumination in that reticle anyways. It's more of a dusk kind of illumination, I find. But with larger subtensions, it allows me to use it on low power. And so if I'm going to use this in hunting or plinking, PCP work, low power is quite important because I may end up taking even a 10-yard shot on a rabbit or something, you know, right off my deck. It could happen really close, or I want to be able to run this out to about 200 yards on steel. And so I need huge amounts of internal elevation. And right now, with this Discovery optic, let me load this last one. Let's find out how much internal elevation I have on a 0 MOA base. Right now, 10 mils, 10.5. So on a 0 MOA base, I'm zeroed at 50 yards with it right now. So on a 0 MOA base, zeroed at 50 yards, I have 10.5 mils. I know that takes me past 100, and I think if I remember right, I need is it 13.5 or 14 mils at 215 yards. So with holdover, I can definitely achieve it. I can get there. it's really not that bad. If I switch to slugs, I get a better ballistic coefficient by far than these little, wiffle balls in the air. But I just wanted to let you know, this can shoot quite far and quite close, and it seems like it can do it reasonably well. The image, again, degradation of the image, not bad. When we come back, I'm gonna flip my camera around again, 35 yards on full power. I should be able to do it much faster than I did the first time, hopefully without a skim packed. And this is probably even more important of a test because it's HD glass, not ED glass. And that's what people are curious about. Of course, it's gonna look a little better at 5 power, minor fishbowl. How does it look at 30 power on a close distance target? That's probably even more important. Then I wanna talk about some of the application and things to look for in an HD image versus an ED image. If you're trying to find out, is my HD scope a decent HD scope or not, there are some things that are telltale signs of a lower quality scope, and we'll talk about what to look for in your scope, whether it's a Discovery or anything else. All right, load up my magazine, and I'll tell you right off the bat, field of view is the first thing you're gonna notice, just a loss of field of view, but I can see so much more detail on these targets. Let's go ahead and send them. That is incredible. I don't know how I missed that. Okay, those are going high and right. I think that might be either the PCP or the pellet. Okay, made an adjustment. Now a little high. There it is. Now I'm out of pellets. One more. Let's just load up one more pellet or two. All right, 2 more pellets. Really hoping to not miss that 1/4 inch. So far, I've done much better on low power than I did on high power. All right, left and right of the target. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that as a miss. All right, not a very impressive performance there on full power. Dialing it back, then going to low power, just running the range again. I admit, most of the time I've ever had this optic, it's been spent on centerfire rifles or rimfire rifles and shooting a little bit further. So this was kind of a nice dynamic test, just going back and forth at closer range. And image-wise, the only real problem you're gonna run into, I think, would be that it has a 25-yard parallax. And if you're trying to shoot even closer than 25 yards, yes, that presents an issue with shooting on higher power, and also some level of image degradation. It's just not gonna be as good. You're not gonna make it as clear. You're gonna have to lower that power down quite a bit if you need to shoot closer than 25 yards. Now, shooting at 35 yards shouldn't really be an issue at all. Parallax seems to work fine. The numbers don't line up perfectly, and I don't care about that. What I did see is that what actually took me longer was because of field of view, maybe wind too. I know it's quite gusty out, it's very windy, but I think field of view definitely slowed me down. Even though this doesn't have any recoil to speak of, it's got a little vibration, a little movement from, dispersing air. The actual field of view became a little bit of a thing as I was running the bolt, which isn't terribly heavy, cocking it back and forth, just staying on target at 30 power that close. It's just a little bit more tricky. The image itself looks decent, and I don't think I would notice much of a difference this close between an ED optic and an HD optic that's configured decently. What you do want to look for, and here's kind of the point of what I want to get at. When you're looking at HD optics versus ED optics, there can still be some chromatic aberration in the image, especially if you're looking at steel targets. Try to look for some color fringing anywhere you can against color patterns. I don't think the colors are quite as true, and the edges are not quite as defined. Now, looking really close at 30, 60, 70 yards, it's really still not bad. I don't notice a lot of issue there, but when I've looked at distance and I'm looking at steel targets, or I'm dealing with contrast and especially dark targets and low light, that's where I'm gonna notice the difference between the HD and the ED glass. In a really poor HD glass, the thing that is gonna separate this one from a very, very poor piece of HD glass would be sometimes eye relief in the way that the optic is configured. Usually if they didn't put a lot of money into glass, they didn't put a lot of money into the configuration as well, and it's just not going to be a very mature design overall. So the eyepiece, the way that's set up, very often dials and knobs will be gummy and sticky rather than smooth. Turrets tend to be a little bit more, like a lot more backlash. These do not have those issues. It's quite a nice feel for turrets. Sounds really good too. You'll just notice things are not as refined on the exterior and controls wise. Then in the image itself, in poor quality HD images, yes, chromatic aberration and the very edges of the glass, when you're on low power, it's usually kind of a bad fishbowl. You'll get something goofy, especially on an HD LPVO or a higher power optic, like a 5-30 is pretty high magnification. You'll notice on the edges some sort of weird distortions. Sometimes it's just in the glass, even away from the edges. On a poorly made HD glass image, you'll see degradation, you'll see imperfections. I've even seen on some HD glass artifacts in the reticle area. I found little black specks, things like that, or fingerprints. You can actually flip your scope around and shine a light in there and see if they didn't white glove that optic when they were putting it together. And you'll see dust and things like that. And it does come through on a poor HD glass image. You'll see those things. It'll detract, it'll distract you, and it will ultimately hurt your shooting experience. Another thing that you might find is that reticle shift happens on some of those more poor quality HD images and glass. The way that it's configured, you'll change your magnification, and even on a first focal plane, you'll change your magnification and you'll see the reticle shift a little bit, or really bad tunneling. When it comes to entry-level HD optics, the thing that separates like a better quality HD image and a lower quality HD optic is going to be some of those features and changes. So pay attention to those if you're on a budget, and I don't care if you get this optic or not, but if you're on a budget and you're trying to find something that still does the trick for you, pay attention to some of those things. Don't just look in a store. Don't just take somebody else's word for it like mine. You actually really want to get behind the optic and you want to look at some distance. You want to look in low light, maybe at the range, borrow somebody else's optic and just do some comparisons, do some side-by-side stuff. Look at exterior features, the configuration, is it a mature design or not? The feel does tell you something, and then actually look through the scope as much as you can and compare it side by side. In the beginning, it's hard to tell the difference because you don't exactly know what you're looking for. But if you do have a little list of what you're looking for, it starts to pop out at you and you can tell faster and faster. That being said, I think the Discovery HD 5-30 is a decent HD optic. It is still a budget optic. It's not the ED glass. It is configured decently well, and I don't find a lot of distractions or artifacts in the glass. It's actually been a pleasant experience, especially on a PCP. So if you're looking for a PCP, airgun optic, something like that, or even centerfire, I find this to be something I can get behind, and I do have links down in the comments.